Hello.
How is one?
One is fine. How is two?
Two is fine. How is three? Sunning
Three's on
himself.
holiday.
Bastard.
Yeah, it's all right for some, but we're gonna miss him. We're gonna miss him. I hope
Yes.
that if he is tuning in, firstly, why is he tuning in? Because I think it's like ridiculously late at night where he is.
He's like 2 hours in front of us, isn't he? Or an hour?
Yeah, and there are better things he can be doing than watching this.
Like
Which is
drinking,
a
getting
general
on
ethos
it.
I have of everyone who watches this podcast, to be fair. I do wonder why sometimes.
It's our good looks. That's what it is.
Yeah. Well, yeah, maybe. Good evening, Kenny. Hi, Marky Mark. Pony Tony. Tactical Dads. Hello, hello. Blackbeard. Good evening. Silly Gilly. James McNary and Mrs. McNary. McAnery. I can never pronounce that correctly. I don't know if that's right. I apologise, James.
It.
Hi, Andrew Taylor. Pony Tony. Hello there.
Oh, Northern France. Bonjour.
Very nice.
That's my French.
The only French I really know is Où est la piscine, which is where is the swimming pool.
See, I don't know French at all, but I always got told that un coulet de poulet was go F a chicken. So I know bonjour and an insult, and that's as far as my French goes.
I'd like to share a story about my brother. I don't think he's listening, so that's fine. My brother doesn't know a lot of German, and we went to a German Christmas market. Now, the only German that my brother knows is Hände hoch, Scheißkopf, which means hands up, shithead.
And is that all
he decided, I'm in Germany, I'm going to speak some German.
Yeah.
I'm like, just cringing in the corner.
Please don't.
So yeah, if you're ever on holiday with my brother,
don't go to Germany.
So, hi John. Hello. Andrew's beside the pool right now. Bloody hell.
Oh, lovely.
There's too many people on holiday at the moment. It's ridiculous.
I want to go on holiday.
Jealous.
Right, just before we start.
Oh, sorry. Okay. Ed was saying I was watching Game of Thrones when the notification came up. So, are you are better than Game of Thrones? Thanks, bud.
Who's Daenerys? I'd definitely say that's Mike.
I don't watch Game of Thrones, so I'm going to assume that's a cool
missed
major
out
character.
It's really good. You should watch it.
I watched the first season, but I watched with my parents and then decided that I didn't want to watch Game of Thrones anymore.
Too much nudity to be sat with your parents.
It was very awkward. Was she the dragon lady? Sorry,
yeah, she was.
Yeah, okay, right. Cool. Hi, Rage.
Anyone that's listening that might know a bit about technology and stuff, I have bought the Fullium X5 mobile clippy on pieces. I can't seem to understand how to get the voice working properly. So if anyone has any experience with that or uses special apps or stuff, please drop me a message because I'm starting to get frustrated. Thank you in advance.
Kenny says those French lose you stand over. My mate missed the hole and got his trousers.
Oh.
Hi, Steve. Welcome.
Hello,
so
Steve.
yeah, we're obviously not joined by Lance this week.
Nope.
We're going to be going it alone. Well, I say alone. Me and Andy are going to be going it alone.
Duo.
So we are going to be continuing our chat on the differences between woodland and urban events. So if you would like to find out what happened before this conversation, then I recommend going back and checking out episode 146, where we also chatted about the latest Defiant event.
Yes, we did.
But in the meantime,
and a few other things.
Well, we always talk about a few other things, so there's never a single track of thread on this. So let's chat some news.
I take my gun and I go pew 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 pew.
News. So, what's in the news this week, Andy?
I don't know. It's been pretty quiet, actually. Oh, apparently, I don't know if you saw our post, but those two thieving yoiks from... Oh, who was it? That we posted up a video about two people stealing from a shop.
Yes.
They, from what I understand, handed themselves in and have paid for the products now. From what I understand from looking at their website. I haven't posted up the second part yet. But yeah, from what I understand, they handed themselves in after going very public.
Yeah, I mean, that's certainly not an ideal thing to. Firstly, you shouldn't steal, and then secondly, like, I think it was the fact it was such a brazen thing to do, like the way that it was done.
And open the box and just put the contents of the box in your pocket. No, just take the box as well. Do it properly.
Just don't get caught, idiots.
Yeah, just don't get caught.
No,
don't do it directly underneath the camera.
Definitely not condone it. Definitely not in the sport either, because it's just a bit shit, really, for everybody.
It is, and it's us. It's everyone else that has to pay for it at the end of the day because they've got to make a profit. Other than that, that's about all the news I have heard over the grapevine.
Yeah, I can't really say I've heard too much news. I want to just obviously reiterate that the glasses we talked about last week weren't revision. They were Ashes. I can't remember the name of the brand, but they weren't revision. I know we obviously started talking about them being revision, and somebody got a bit upset that I was implying that their revision glasses would be impacted or not as good as they should be for airsoft. So yeah, I apologise. It wasn't the correct term.
No, it wasn't. It was. I think wasn't it Edge? Wasn't it the Edge?
It was Edge something. I think it was begins with an A.
I don't know.
I'll be honest, Andy. At this point, I'm not gonna name the specific brand without knowing. So, having already got into trouble for that.
But to be fair, I've played a lot of airsoft with Ash, and he has taken. His face is a BB magnet. Like, I don't understand how he gets away with not just falling apart, to be honest, with the amount of hits he gets to the face. And they have stood up to every other shot that I've ever seen taken to him. It was, from what I've been told, a literal 1 in a million shot. So
yeah, it's pretty bad. But I ran a poll. I've run a poll on the NoFo Airsoft community chat on Facebook, and so I wanted to find out roughly. I tried to pick a few camouflage colours. So I wanted to find some sort of a selection what people's favourites were, because I think there's a lot of love out there for various different patterns. I mean, MTP multicam obviously seems to be a firm favourite with a lot of people because it's easily accessible, readily available kit. But interestingly, of the poll that we did, came out on top Woodland DPM with 26%. Second was M81 Woodland. So a lot of love for Woodland.
Yeah.
And third was just, funnily enough, plain OD green, which I thought was quite cool. So yeah, those were our top 3 on our poll. We're going to be running some other polls on Facebook. I appreciate that not everyone has Facebook. Please don't shout at me, Rage. But then I don't think Rage necessarily would participate in the polls anyway. But if he does, if you want to, Rage, let me know, and I will vote for you, or on your behalf. So, cool. Well, that's the only real news I'm aware of. I haven't had any purchases either.
I have. I've got one.
It's the end of October, and I'm pretty skint. I'm not gonna lie.
I got one. I bought myself a Maul. Maul. M-A-W-L. Maul C1. Yeah, I like it. But it works.
That's nice. Please don't blind yourself.
Do that. But yeah.
So how much was it?
I managed to get this for £90.
Cool.
And it's got.
Where did you get
I don't know if you'd be able to see it, but that little light there.
Yes.
That changes green, and it's a really tiny little dot. So when you've got your eye, if you haven't got your IR, like if you haven't got your nods on, because it's got IR settings as well, it shows up.
Oh, that's
ever so slightly. and then when you turn it off, when you turn the whole unit off, the whole thing goes. It's actually a very good bit of kit. It's I think it's the Woosan one. Wasan. But it's the
I'll take your
CNC
word for
one.
it. I don't know a lot about them specifically, but
It's the CNC one. It's not the one that costs £23,000. But yeah, I got it secondhand for 90 quid off of one of the Facebook groups.
very nice.
And it works absolutely brilliantly. And that will be going on my Mark 18.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
If anyone has a real one and would like to do a collab video on
full comparison as to see what the differences are.
Hit me up. I will
Do
be travel.
you think it would be worth having one of those if you didn't have night vision?
What, a peg box in general or just one of these?
Oh, well, well, I mean, you can talk about peg boxes in general, but I mean, I appreciate there's different peg boxes in terms of, you know, you can get them that are just battery storage, you get them with just a torch, some of them have a little laser on,
yeah,
and some of them also have IR capability.
I've got this one, the Moore, but then also as well, I've got the GMP one. This one doesn't have a light on it. This is just purely for our visual laser and IR laser. And this is a brilliant bit of kit. If you can get hold of one of these, definitely. They don't seem to make them anymore. But between the two, this one obviously has a little built-in torch. And this one doesn't. So this one's purely just for night vision and having a visual laser. I personally never really use a laser unless I'm doing it.
Good job, you own two of them then.
Yeah, but I tend to use it mainly for night vision. But also as well, it is quite intimidating having a couple of lasers pointing through some smoke. I don't know. Personally, for me, yes, because I've got night vision.
That's what I'm saying. So, but if you took away the night vision, probably less useful.
Probably less useful, but it still looks cool.
Yeah.
And you've got the rule of cool to kind of think about as well. But this one, the small little GMP one, where have I put it? This one with a little absolutely brilliant bit of kit. You can run that with any torch that you want as well then. So I run mine with the O-light. If you wanted to kind of cut down on the amount of weight on the front of your weapon, then yeah, you can go for like a small pet box with an inbuilt light and inbuilt laser. Yeah, it all depends on what your game style is. I prefer having a torch that has strobe on it though, especially at night when you're laid up an ambush. And you fire and you put the strobe on, it really does disorient people in regards to where you're firing from, because all they see is the flash and then they're getting rained down on by BBs, which is why I think sometimes having the torch and
it's the issue with airsoft though, obviously, in that lasers are obviously a big problem in terms of, you know, there are children at airsoft games. You know, let's be honest with you, both adult children and actual children. So giving them a laser pointer that, you know, swooping across, pointing people's eyes can obviously be quite dangerous.
I just want to say hello. Just change quick. Hello to our first Twitch viewer. Twitch? Is it Twitch?
It is Twitch, and they're not the first.
It is Twitch. Are they not the first?
It's the first.
Second.
It's the first today.
The first today. The second that we've ever seen. So welcome.
Yeah. I mean, with strobes and things like that as well, obviously there's the risk of epilepsy. Well, not the risk of epilepsy, but there's the risk of those suffering with epilepsy. Obviously, you know, I know certain sites will sort of do a blanket ban on things like lasers and strobes and stuff. So
I always double check. If there's no written rules, I'll always check with the organizer to make sure that they haven't had anyone say, yeah, I suffer from epilepsy. Because the flash, I've actually got it here because I took it off my Mark 18. I don't know if you'll be able to. See, that's
Yeah, no epilepsy warning for anyone on this channel though. So just oh, cool.
I don't think that would be big enough because it's only a little screw. I don't know. I don't know how I know epilepsy send people mad, but I apologise if I've just given you a fit.
There we go. Punish One has chipped in. Hello.
Oh, hello.
The only polls Rage is interested in is the ones he slides down in fishnets. So, there you go. That's the mental image for everyone. Kieran says, I bought a holster set for my FN57 from Kydex Customs. Bought it first thing on Thursday. 30 hours later, it's in my hands. I'm very pleased with it. So
Yeah.
that is good. You had all
Everyone
your
should have one.
Kydex stuff, didn't you?
That one?
Yeah,
I love it.
Yeah.
And then I
think they finally got through their Ukraine order and everything like that there. So I think their sort of production times are pretty much back on what everyone's expecting them to be. So
because I know Ash ordered one for his Glock and his new light, and I'm pretty sure that turned up within a couple of hours, but a day or so. I highly recommend the Bofang holder. I've put it on that setup. Really, really compact, really small, holds it properly in place. There's no risk of you pressing any buttons or anything at all. Really good bit of kit.
Just needs a knob strap, doesn't it? Doesn't we establish that it needs a knob strap?
No, see, I've learnt something. Take the knob off. They just pop off. Set it to the volume you want. Pull the knob off.
And that's this week's quote of the week.
Just pull the knob off.
Before we roll into the woodland and urban stuff, Lance says, fun fact, there are hedgehogs in Cyprus.
Ah, what do they call them in Cyprus? What language do they speak in Cyprus?
Greek, I believe, in southern Cyprus, and then Turkish in northern Cyprus.
Ah, right. There you go. Learn something
I would imagine that there's also probably a lot of English.
Yeah.
And other sort of languages floating around because it's also very touristy, isn't it? So.
Well, if someone can tell me what hedgehog is in Greek or Turkish without Googling it, well done.
Yeah, cool. Right, we'll call that the end of the news. So we're going to be talking about the differences between woodland and urban events. We covered loadouts, uniform requirements, and weapon platforms last week. So we're going to kick this week off with shelter setups. So Andy, let's talk about your sort of woodland shelter setup first and how you would vary that for an urban event.
So as everyone knows, I am a big fan of hammock setups. If the event called for the situation where I could get away with having one, that would be my primary. If it's more low profile, keep yourself out of prying eyes, just basically keeping where you can get some shut eye, then it would be bivvy bag and basher would be my main go-to.
Yep. Yeah, you can't beat the bivvy bag and the basher.
Bivvy bag and basher setup. Although I really still, it's fine being very hard to get hold of one of your Russian
the Ratnik
boots bags.
You should have said I've got a contact.
Oh, I really want one. I've got no money at the moment because obviously
they have rocketed in price, and I have noticed as well on anything like eBay or anything like that, every bit of Russian kit now appears to be a Ukraine trophy. And I'm not 100% sure if they actually are or whether someone's just gone, right, here's a clever plan. Anything now, just sell it as that. Job done.
Yeah.
So yeah, they are quite hard to get hold of at the moment.
Yeah, because the one that I found over in the States, he was like, yeah, I'll send it over, and then he was like, oh no, I've just looked at postage, and I'm like, yeah, but I'm paying the postage. He was like, yeah, no, I can't be bothered. I was like, but I'm paying it. Cheers, mate. He was just like, nah, I can't be bothered going down to the post office. Oh,
that's
all right.
That's nice of him.
Yeah. Thanks for the help.
Yeah. Was this an actual business or just somebody selling it?
No, this was a business.
Right, okay.
I was like,
that seems like really counterintuitive business planning right there.
I was like, great, okay, cheers. Enjoy your profit that you're making off of it through not selling it.
I'll see if I can find it, because I did speak to somebody about buying one at some point when I was looking to get my original one, and they said that it was something that they could get hold of. Now, I don't know where their sources were in terms of where they got hold of these things, but the answer wasn't no. The answer was just, let me know and I'll get you one.
Give me a day.
Yeah. So, but it was a proper company, so I will dig that out by the end of the show.
Oh, lovely. No, don't publicly put it out. Give it to me.
I'll let you
Then
know,
next, then next week we'll put it out.
Yeah. Hedges Hoggus apparently is the Greek.
Hedges Hoggus or Hoggus Hedgehogs.
Hi, Fresh Meat. Welcome. Yeah, so I mean, for me, in terms of shelter setups, I kind of flip between three. Traditionally, I went straight for the Basher. Then I kind of opted more for a hammock setup, and then recently I've been going for my USMC Diamond brand tent.
Yeah, that's nice.
Mostly, to be fair, because a lot of the events we've been doing haven't really required you to move around too much, if that makes sense. So it's not been the style of events that we've been playing per se haven't really required a lot of the stealth aspect to it. The Diamond brand the Diamond brand USMC tent provides a lot of shelter and coverage. It's a brilliant blackout system for sort of sleeping in. Like, you get a little bit of bar of light around the bottom of the tent, but for the most part, great tent. They are rocketing up in prices as well. I have a feeling, again, that's because obviously kit going off to various countries at war at the moment, because we're not just two countries at war. The whole world seems to be going to pot at the moment. So,
yeah.
They did have a couple at the Military Odyssey in Detling this year for 150, which they are currently going for about 200 to 250 on eBay, if you can find one. Most of them are being sold in the States, so obviously you've got to bear in mind the postage on that, which you're probably looking at about maybe £100 on top of that, 150. So yeah,
I've got to admit, if I went for a tent now, I'd probably save up and go for one of the light fighter ones. Like I think they're about 400 quid for 500 quid brand new with a single person one. But apparently they're just like, they pack up to like nothing at all. They're like that, and that's your poles that are making it that size. But this is light as a feather.
I've been trying to get hold of Vango, because Vango makes some really good lightweight backpacking tents. They are on the Duke of Edinburgh. I mean, Duke of Edinburgh is quite a good little source of information for camping material, because obviously, they're trying to advertise kit for relatively inexperienced hikers and the like, for sort of your bronze, silver, and the like, to go out and spend time in the wilderness. So the Vango Banshee 300 is a really good little tent. I've used that backpacking a number of times, but it just isn't camouflaged in any way. It's green.
No, the Vango ones do.
The one I've got is a very kind of luminous green, and I think some of the older models and the newer models have a darker version. But I don't know why they just don't come out with a camouflage version, because
they're meant to be for hikers.
But for wild camping, that would be ideal, because the whole premise of wild camping is that you're kind of set up late. You're not really visible. You're not having a big impact on.
I don't think wild camping's that popular over here, though, because there's not really that many places. Like,
well, there's only one place legally in the UK you can do it, or sorry, in England that you can do it, which is Dartmoor. And there's obviously the whole issue going on at the moment there in terms of, I think it's now been resolved, but there was the landowner issue that wanted to try and kick everyone off their land. You can wild camp in Scotland with less issue. I don't know the exact laws on it, but I know that it's easier in Scotland than it is in the UK. But Vango tents, like if Vango brought out a Banshee 300 in a camo pattern, I would immediately have one, because it's brilliant. Like they are little compact tents. They weigh like, I can't remember now. I think it's like 2 kilos or something. They're 3-person tents, and it's something that you can throw up incredibly quickly, and then you've got a tent. It's not the most low profile though. So granted, if we do any milsims that require proper low profile camping, Basher, bivvy bag, my Ratnik bivvy, something like that all day long. I haven't really used the hammock lately. I've got
Have you
this.
not?
I've got this hammock set up. I haven't used it. I mustn't have used it in like 2 or 3 years now. Quite often we're at sites where the trees are too far apart. I mean, obviously the site that we had our NoFo event at.
Yep.
So I know that there are 1 or 2 positions that you can obviously set up a hammock, but for the most part, it's not quite so readily available in that kind of main setup.
No,
area.
you have to kind of just go just outside. Especially on that back edge where Lance has piled up the fallen down trees to act as a bit of a barrier. You go the other side of that, there's loads of good trees back there. Keeps you out the wind as well.
It does, but so does a tent.
Yeah.
The downside with the tent, obviously, is obviously. I mean, any of the ground camping, you need a relatively decent pad. If you want to get a nice, comfortable night's sleep, there's things that you can do to mitigate that. So obviously, you make sure you clean your ground spot before you're going to go in and camp there. Try to remove any of the like old twigs and stuff like that, because anything that you'll leave there or you will find in the night and it will be uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So the hammock's obviously better for that, but then the issue with the hammock is the high profile nature of it all. So,
yeah, you can get hammocks.
I know what you're going to say in that you can get low, but with a basher you can go maybe 500-600 mil off the ground.
Yeah, you can have it like
which you're not
almost
going to
like
achieve with a. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You're not going to achieve that with a hammock.
Never. Unless you've got it so taut.
Yeah.
You get in and just mummified.
So yeah, I mean, in terms of sort of woodland setup, that's my go-to. By the way, the Banshee is 2.8 kilos for a 3-person tent,
Which isn't for a 3-person tent, especially if you're going as a 3-person. If you're going,
well, you probably wouldn't. So with most tents, if you're burgeoning in, I would suggest always take an extra person, take a person off the tent. Recommendation in terms of
but you
allowing
could split that between
have
2
your
people
kit in the tent, ideally.
Yeah. Yeah, you could split the inner and the outer between 2 people, and then the pegs and the poles between 2 people, and you've half that weight almost straight away.
Yeah.
You just got to really like the person you sleep with.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. I mean, you're probably unlikely to rock up to a milsim event on your Todd and then be super comfortable. I mean, maybe you are. I mean, it depends on how outgoing you are. I mean, if you're rocking up to an event on your Todd anyway, you're probably, fairly up for kind of getting stuck in. But appreciate that sometimes people want their own space a little bit, and if you don't know someone quite as well, you're probably unlikely to get in a tiny tent with them. Landnav Challenge has said, while camping is still trespass in England, other than Dartmoor, so most companies will create bright colours for safety, so in an emergency, SAR teams can see them clearly. But I don't want to be seen.
And half of the trespassing is half the fun. Not that we're condoning that.
What you can do is obviously get a DD tarp or something like that, cover it over the top, but it's just not. It's nice to have that just single proprietary system all kind of set up and ready to go. But yeah, I would like some more camouflage stuff. But so that's woodland. So let's transition now to urban environments. So I mean, the most recent, I believe, the 2 of us attended together was HQ Defiant. In Driffield with Defiant. That was Red Tide 3. So what was your setup? How was that different to your kind of traditional woodland go-to?
So no matter where I go, I have a basher with me. No matter what I do, urban, swamp, woodland, there is always a basher in my bag. So for that one, and I'm glad I had it still in there, was my camp bed. And then I put my basher over the top of that just for a little bit of privacy. And also as well, at the time I didn't know, but it was also to stop if any fire came into the fob. It give me a bit of cover as well. So I tend to in urban ones, depending on what the setup's like, it will be always camp bed. And then a basher sort of tied off in sort of like an L shape, lean-to sort of way, just so if any rain, because all the sites that we play airsoft at, you call them a building, but it rains more in the building than it does outside.
Yeah. Yeah,
Once
I mean,
it finds that,
on that particular issue, there was some really weird locations that water was coming in through the building, like right in the middle of the room where there's no beams or anything. Like it's just really strange.
So I always take a basher, and now a set of DeWalt drivers in the car as well, so I can power drive some 9-inch screws into the wall.
Yeah.
Just something to tie off to.
Yeah, I mean, I think a basher should be something that, because it's so small, if you can get like the proper British Army, either DPM or MTP basher, it's got the hat, the carry loops and stuff like that. They're so versatile for doing all sorts of stuff with.
Yeah,
I've seen them used for. I mean, they can obviously be used for stretchers, but I've seen them be used for stretchers to carry kit out. So sort of 2 or 3 people have bundled all their kit into the middle of it, and they're carrying like excess stuff out, as well as the Bergens and stuff. You can obviously hold them up as vertical screens. You can hold them up as kind of, as Andy kind of implied, like rain shields and stuff like that. If you're in a building that's pissing it down, you can use them as windbreaks in windows and things like that.
I've used it a couple of times when we were setting up like observation points. And literally you know that you're going to be sat there for 3-4 hours, so you just kind of tuck it around yourself, throw bushes around it, so it gives you that little bit of extra, so you can move around without, you know, that you're not going to knock a branch or anything like that. It kind of gives you a bit of a, I want to say shield. It's not really shield. Well, yeah, it is sort of a shield.
No, it just gives you that barrier, doesn't it?
Yeah,
I think. Yeah.
So you know that your clothes aren't going to get caught on a twig. You've got yourself like a nice little comfy spot to kind of settle down in for 3 hours.
I mean, if you're not sitting against it as well, it's almost a thermal barrier, because the basher itself, there's obviously fairly common misconception that thermal can just see through anything. It's like X-ray vision, which obviously it can through certain materials and products and stuff like that. But if you can create that kind of vertical separation, it's gonna potentially sort of help shield your heat signature.
Yeah.
At least if you're sitting right up against it and you're heating up the sheet, I think I'm pretty certain you can get seen through. You can obviously use like Mylar and stuff like that to assist with that as well. But for a plain basher sheet, that's quite useful. I mean, the one thing that I always found great for using them for is, do you remember when we went to dog tag for Red Tide 1, 2?
Red Tide 2, yeah.
Yeah. So we were in.
Oh no, Red Tide 1, wasn't it? Dog tag.
I thought it was Red Tide 1. Yeah. I don't know dog tag airsoft particularly well. I've played there once, and it was this event. We were in one of the safe areas, or the safe area, which has covered ceiling, which was great, but open sides. There's some sort of panelled fencing and some mesh netting, but it was absolutely hammering it down that weekend. So we used bashers to kind of line all that round. So it helped stop that driving rain from coming in. So they're just such a versatile thing that, even in an urban environment, it packs up small. Take a basher with you. You'll probably find that you've got more use of it than not.
Also, pyro defense, as you found out.
Yeah.
I would have been.
That's touchy subject, Andy, there.
Because you got to think also as well, like especially in urban, pyro is going to be used, and if your fob or sleeping area can be attacked, most of the time your sleeping bag is probably going to be one of the more expensive items that you use, because, well, personally, I always spend that little bit extra on a decent sleeping bag, so I know I've got a good night's sleep. If I'm sitting there and someone chucks a pyro onto my sleeping bag and my sleeping bag goes up, that person's getting shouted at. Obviously accidents do happen, but just having that something in between your bed and say the door or a window, just to stop that, or not to stop, but reduce the risk of that random pyro coming flying in and setting fire to your lovely warm sleeping bag on day one.
So I've got a little chip that I've been using for this now. I'm just trying to find it so I can share. So for those that may have seen these already, so you know the British Army mosquito net, like cot, single mosquito net.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so there's basically a little self-contained tent. Effectively, It's got two poles that cross over, and then that holds up like the superstructure for this mosquito tent. Then you can sit that on a cot bed. I mean, I don't have a British Army cot, but I find that I can attach it to any sort of cot bed that I'm using at the time, or you can just lay it on the floor. And I've been kind of taking this with me to some more of the urban events where you kind of want to create. You're not so fussed about like the rain cover at that point, but it just keeps things off of you while you're sleeping. So for exactly like that, so for pyro or anything like that, I wouldn't rate this against BB impacts, but obviously it kind of minimises the risk that if your glasses slip off your face while you're having a bit of a kip. So for events where you can obviously be raided in your safe zone, it does give you a little bit of extra protection because you are effectively behind a mesh. Again, please don't take that as being that's suitable for safety. That you can hide behind that and you'll be absolutely fine. But it just gives you an extra little bit of layer for that. You can chuck a tarp over it as well if you want to kind of give you a little bit more privacy. But these are quite good. They're not they're pretty
they
compact.
look good.
You can slot it in your kit. I had this at Red Tide 3. Set my bed and everything up inside of it and just sort of makes everything nice and contained, which was quite helpful.
Yeah.
So.
I got to admit, I quite like Lance's Dutch Army camp bed that he has. Hope he's still listening. You know the one that he had at Red Tide 1? And it had the waterproof cover over it and it was all set out on the bed.
I think that was something similar to that. I think he just threw a tarp over it, I believe.
Oh, was it?
Yeah,
Hopefully he's still listening. But
I'm
that was quite... I like that.
That gave me the idea for the buying that.
Oh, was it? See, I quite like that.
Yeah. And then, I say, they're not too expensive. They come in, little kind of kit, depending on which one you buy. They come in like the little kit bag and stuff like that. So, yeah, recommend those. Just gives you an extra little bit of shelter. Other than that, cot beds, I think, probably the only major difference.
Especially indoors.
You're not going to be taking a cot bed into the woods. I think the major thing with a cot bed is when you're in some of the more urban buildings and the like. Firstly, there's a whole load of shit on the floor, from dust to, crap to potentially like lead paint flakes and
asbestos.
I don't want to go down the route of saying asbestos, but there's clearly these are dilapidated buildings, so there are potentially some nasties on the ground, and it's just worth, I think, trying to get above that if you can. Not saying that you can't. Good friend Ryan, he obviously just sleeps on the ground everywhere, so it's doable. But it gets you off the ground. You can obviously put kit under your cot bed as well.
And I find that I can never. I'm all right getting comfy on a mat in woodland and stuff, because I do find I know the ground does give you a bit of give after a little while, but concrete, no, I just can't get comfy. I just tossing and turning, just could never get comfortable. So just being able to have that little bit off the ground for me is a godsend. If I have to sleep on concrete, I'll just go and stand on stag duty all night.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, concrete sucks the heat out of you a lot quicker than soil anyway.
Yeah.
Thermal properties. So, yeah. Cot bed. It's good. The only thing you do need to consider is cot bed. You potentially suffer from the same issue as you would in a hammock, where obviously you have a layer of air now underneath you. We've obviously talked about hammock underquilts and the like before, so just make sure you've got that kind of degree of separation from the base of your cot bed with something like a sleep pad. There's a whole variety of things out there. I mean, you could even use a whoopee as a base layer, for example. Just give yourself a little bit of insulation there. Chuck kit
also
underneath
kit
as well, that helps.
Kit bag and stuff like that, if you can get that wedged underneath. I know me and a couple of other people who have recently moved over use the carp fishing beds, which are very insulated to start off with.
That's proper glamping, isn't it? At that point.
Yeah. But they are good. Like, it's especially on an urban where most urban events you can pull up with a car, dump all your stuff out, and then go and piss your car off down into the car park. I don't think I've ever done an event where an urban event where you've had to tab in at all. I haven't done one.
No.
Not an urban one. It's always been
No.
drop your kit off, shoot back. So for me, just having you're doing an urban event, great, get a little bit of luxury. Because at the end of the day, you're there to enjoy the pew pew.
Well, it depends on how extreme you want to go with it, really. I mean, you know, there are times where we've done some urban events in some pretty grotty buildings. But it's about kind of some of those things that you can bring together. And, you know, if you're in the opportunity where you've got a room of, say, sort of 5 or 6 of you, you know, you can start to break up some of the creature comforts amongst you. So you don't all have to bring space heaters. I mean, you can obviously get those kind of gas space heater type things, can't you? Or bashers or things like that. Like, you can start to kind of share that out and kind of go, you know, right, you've got a couple of those, I'll bring this, etc., etc. So yeah, there you go. that's indoor shelter setups and sleep setups. I mean, realistically, I think the main thing to bear in mind is the urban event. You're probably going to have the benefit of some walls to shelter behind to some extent.
You might have walls, but you might have no windows.
Well, you might have no windows. I mean, you look at Longmoor, for those that have had a chance to play at Longmoor, you've got the opportunities for some of the houses there, the buildings there, in the main fob area, I want to call it. You've obviously got the bunk houses, which, you know, you've got quite a nice toilet block there the last time I was there, that they've put in. So it's no longer the porta cabins, it's a proper little inbuilt toilet system there now, and bunk beds. So, you know, yeah, it's a little bit cramped and stuff like that, but it's actually quite cozy when you get all in and get all set up. So just, I think the key thing is, don't take anything at risk. Find out in advance of what sort of kit you're going to need, and make sure you plan appropriately for an urban event. Because I don't want you to believe that you turn up to any urban event and there's bunk beds now and it's great and there's so we talk about storage and packing as well on that note. So we've obviously talked about dropping your stuff off at the buildings when you rock up. How do you pack differently between the two? And I think this is going to be quite a quick question because I think we've probably got the same answer.
I tend to basically sort out a box. And the box will contain 90% of the stuff that I need for an urban event. And then I'll just bung the box down next to me, have the bed set up, and then that'll be kind of it. I tend to rarely go with a bag, just purely because you do have that sort of permanent setup sort of idea. I have been looking at some of the at the moment I've just got to carry one, but I do want to get one with wheels and compartments and everything that folds out.
I got a walking trolley for my birthday. So it's what,
one of the old granny ones, the ones with the
no,
this net round it.
This is like a proper pallet cart thing. So my plan is that, because I can just slide that in the car, if there's a few of us like taking like the Plano boxes, or I mean, B&Q do quite a good little range of semi-waterproof boxes. I say waterproof in that I don't think they're obviously designed to submerge necessarily, but they do have like a bit of a seal running around the inside edge of the lid. So I know I bought a couple of those previously, and they're incredibly useful because you can just make sure, as long as they're organised, and you have to keep it properly squared away, because otherwise you just end up with a right mess. But you can have your box, maybe 1 or 2 boxes depending on type of event, what kind of kit you're bringing, gun case, anything like that, and you can stack it all up, and then I can then trolley it in. So it's exactly that. You know, I think you're burgeoning into Woodland events because you're going to be carrying it. You don't have the capability necessarily to wheel things around. But yeah,
Yeah. So yeah, urban. I will always try and take a box, just because it gives you something to work off of while you're sitting on your bed. Somewhere to put your torch. Just
They can stack. That's the other
bedside
thing.
table. Bedside table.
You can build a wall.
Yeah. Just basically to have a little bedside table. I do think that urban events are more cushy
I was going to say
events.
cushy. That was exactly the word I was going to say.
They're definitely one where you can go, do you know what? I'm going to go with my jet boil. I'm going to go with my carp bed with ultra padding. I'm going to have my bedside table. I'm going to have my gun case set up.
I told you it's glamping. That's basically what
It is. Urban events they're fun, and they if that's the event that you like, then yeah. But I do definitely think woodland events are harder. Unless, well, you say that when we were at dog tag, that was almost an urban setup in woodland where we were, because we were given the
But I mean, we effectively had hard cover. I would argue at that point.
Yeah.
That's the thing. We weren't camping per se.
No.
But yeah. There's a few questions coming in, so I want to kind of just talk about those.
Yes.
So Rage says Vango tents are great for the price point. Lance says OEX tents are also very good. I can confirm that.
Yes.
James Shaw says, is the Snug Pack Ionosphere any good?
Snug Pack Ionosphere.
I don't know if you've seen one of these, Andy.
I might have done on my last search.
These are... Yeah, I'll see if I can find one. They are... it's like a little... I think they do more than a one-man, but the ones I've seen are one-man. Let's find one quick.
Oh, what them? Yes. Because I've had one in my basket for nearly 3 months now. It is one that I do want to. It is one that I do want to try, and I have, and the reviews for them. Personally, I've never tried one, but it is in my shopping basket.
So I've heard some mixed stuff about them, to be honest with you.
So I've heard that the 2-person one is better than the 1-person one. They do a 2-person one. The 1-person one is meant to be a bit
bigger,
claustrophobic.
Yeah. The two. This is what I was saying. You know, bear in mind, people won't just leave their kit outside for the most part. They will bring their kit in with them. So if you've got kit in there as well, you are going to be tight against anything anyway.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things I've heard is that whilst the pitch of the tent obviously is towards the head end, for taller people, you are still pushing your head into kind of where the tent starts to dip down again. Oh, so that's one of the reasons why people felt a bit claustrophobic, because you are getting to the point where you are kind of getting into the tent on that aspect. Funnily enough, that's one of the reasons I went with the Ratnik bivvy, because you've got, whilst it's claustrophobic as fuck for the rest of you, your head is in like this own little mini tent, and you've got the space in there that you can move around.
See, that's why I like your one as well. Like, because I know it sounds silly, but it's where they've thought about where to put that single pole, because it's quite far back, isn't it? It's not in front of you, so
no, you get two on the Ratnik, so it does I very much liken it to having a children's tent that you've got your head in, and then the rest of your body's just in a bag.
In a bivvy bag, because
that's pretty much how that system works. But yeah, so I mean, Snug Pack's obviously a good brand. I get cracking reviews, but just the bits of feedback that I've heard from people that have had them have been, sometimes they've not been as good as they wanted them to be.
No, but then again, also as well, every tent, if you go to the manufacturer's website, every tent will have a drawing of the tents. That one of them. Yep, there it is. All right. That should give you an idea of what you're getting yourself into. Like, you can clearly see on this bottom one that center pole is not above your head. So you know that it's going to start dropping from that point. So if you are going to buy a tent, always have a look at this diagram, try and find this diagram because it will tell you what you're getting into, like literally getting into. Never go by what the amount of pit. Oh, I bought an 8-man tent and I managed to fit 32 people into it. That's great. Literally, just always and know your own build of your shoulders and like know your own build, so you can always compare to what you're getting into.
It's hard sometimes to actually have the opportunity to go and test tents like that. So
Yeah.
you know you're not going to be finding that Camping International or Go Outdoors or whatever necessarily spec those tents or have them on display. So it's harder to kind of give them a go. So yeah, as much research as you can before you obviously launch into it. It's going to give you a bit of a steer before you buy it, because obviously having to return them, sometimes you have to then pay to return stuff.
Yeah.
And it's
although Snugpack are really good. Snugpack are good. So you can have it turn up. Don't take any of the labels off the bag, off the compression sack or anything. First reasonably good day where you know you're not going to get it soaking wet, throw it up and get in it straight away. And if you don't fit in it, like Snugpack are very good. I think they do free returns within X number of days, within 14 days, I think it is.
Sorry, I was looking up. There's quite a good tent review person that I follow on YouTube who's done a 4-year review with one. And I can't remember the Outdoor Gear Review. Go and check them out on YouTube.
Yeah, he's very good.
Yeah, they do.
He's got some good videos.
Of very in-depth testing on tents. So if you are struggling to find anything, go and check them out as a channel. They've got a load of information on there. Ryan says you could also use a basher. Also basher up for an OP if sniping. That's another opportunity for that as well.
Yeah.
It just keeps the rain off you. It can provide solid wall cover, anything like that. Landnaz says you can dye nylon to darken a tent. I know. I want a camo tent. I want a camo. I'm not going to sit there painting my fucking tent. I want to just buy one.
Why don't you just buy a couple of bashers and then go to someone that's very good with a sewing?
I'm not going to start
and make your own
tents.
top.
No, I'm just going to bully Vango into making one for me.
Just keep sending her a message. You made one yet? You made one yet? You made one yet?
Stephen Whitehead says, I use a foam mat. Is a Thermarest any more comfortable?
Thermarest. Oh, that's the blow-up one, isn't it?
Yeah.
I've never slept on one. But again, it's something that I've been looking at. But they're so expensive for just saying. And I'm always worried about blow-up ones.
So,
because
I would always suggest that it's hard because I actually really like an inflatable mat. You can get them proper tiny. You inflate it up, you get relatively decent size pad, relative thickness. The problem is, as Andy has just alluded to, if that pops, you have nothing. We've all slept on the shitty airbed that our parents or our aunts or whatever have. It's like, oh yeah, camp on it. I think it goes down a bit in the middle of the night. You wake up, you're just laying on the floor.
But then also as well, you've got the right. So we've got to be low profile. We've got to bash her out. Right. We're trying to be really quiet. And then you've either got, personally speaking here, some fat, overweight, vaping, sodding airsofter blowing into his blow-up mattress, which you're not meant to do anyway because you put moisture inside of it, which makes it colder. Or you've got the little...
And they rot, apparently.
Yeah. And then, or you've got the little...
Yeah.
So for me, personally, it all depends on how comfortable you want to be. But for me, I probably wouldn't risk spending, because those Thermarest ones are really expensive. They're like 130 odd quid, aren't they?
They are, but there's a lot of technology behind them. I'm not obviously advertising them or trying to sell them here.
Have you got one?
There's a lot of technology. No, I don't have one, and I have been looking at one, but I really can't just justify the cost on it.
That's what I mean. I'd be worried. I'd be so worried.
Yeah, I mean, the key with a Thermarest is obviously they have pretty good R values, which is your thermal resistance. Basically, it's going to aid how much resistance you have to your body losing its heat to the ground. So the higher the R value, then ultimately the more warm you're going to stay. Now, for the most part, none of us are really doing snow camping. And some of those Thermarest pads are like proper up there for keeping you warm in the depths of winter. I would probably recommend, if you're going to do a mil sim, you want to try and get the best night's sleep you can, because ultimately you're probably paying to be there. You want to get a comfy night's sleep. So unfortunately, it's one of those things that you probably have to go to a shop and try out some pads. Don't just keep buying them, because they're very expensive. And returning them, as I say, can be a faff. So just go to like Camping International, go outdoors. They've got a number of pads there. You don't need something that's super camouflage and anything like that, and you can give those a go.
I'm sorry to say, but the best inflatable one that I've had is that Dutch Army one.
That's what I was just.
I'm sorry to say, that's 25 quid, and I'll tell you what, the R rating on that must be something else. Must be.
Yeah.
Right, I have never had a bad night's sleep in that thing, and it only blows up to about that thick, but it is like literally sleeping on that.
And it's got foam in there as well, because they are self-inflating. The only thing I would say is the one I've got has got a hole in it, but that's the benefit of having foam in there, because I've used that probably 2 or 3 times more after the holes appeared, and I haven't really noticed. It was only when I was sort of rolling it up once after the event, I was like, I'm not actually squeezing a lot of air out of this. But you can repair them. So, you can get a good Dutch Army sleeping pad. It's got the foam in it, so if it does deflate for whatever reason, you're not just laying on the floor. You've obviously got a layer of foam there. So I highly recommend those. I don't know if Prepper's Shop have one at the moment.
I don't think they've got any in stock. I think last time they had them, we went, they've got them in stock, and then everyone went, buy 2. See, I've got 2.
No, they're out of stock.
Yeah, I've got 2 and a puncture repair kit. So I literally went down to Halford's, got a bicycle puncture repair kit, one of the little ones, the little pocket ones that they sell. Got one of those, sprayed it green, and that lives in my bag. And the only reason I got 2 was just in case one like literally tore in half for some reason.
Yeah, I mean, they're brilliant. Here you go. There's a Thermarest style mat, Dutch ISO mat, military NATO issue, olive green, self-inflating bedroll. This is from surplusandoutdoors.com. It's super like new with bag, £35.
Perfect.
Super like new condition. Yeah, so that's.
I would say that's. I would say that's top of. I would say that's the most that I would probably pay for one.
Yeah,
because I think Preppers sold theirs for 25.
They're 25.
Now,
there are more available out there as well.
Yeah.
Forces Uniform and Kit.co.uk have one for £25. Doesn't talk about the grade 1, no faults or repairs. There you go.
Yeah. See, I even throw that into my hammock. Because I on my hammock I've got a zip section that I can put a ground mat in. So I have the under blanket, then I have that mat to kind of keep it square. And literally, you can't feel anything from coming up underneath. Like, and I've slept on cold, wet floors with that, with just in my bivvy bag, and I haven't felt a thing from it. By far, it's probably one of the best roll mats that I've ever bought.
Punish One says, at the end of the day, you're sleeping on the floor in the woods. There's only so much comfort you're going to get. Dutch Army is the way to go. And to add to that a Mylar sleep pad, and you're laughing. So, there you go.
Yeah. Those Mylar seat bags are good.
Yeah. Right. I think that was most of the comments. Dance said, if you're meal simming, the easier to pack is better. However, it does depend on the event. So,
words of wisdom.
I'm not really
there.
sure that was in reference to. Good comment. Well done.
So I suppose
I
was going to say, I suppose the only other difference that you might do is cooking.
Yeah.
Would you change your cooking setup depending on urban event to woodland?
I've eaten a lot more cold food at urban events.
Really?
Because I haven't really needed the heat so much. So
See, I'm the other way
things
around.
like drinks. I'm including like everything that you consume
Yeah.
on an event. So drinks, food, anything like that. I definitely eat a lot more stuff cold on an urban event for the most part. Now whether that's a fear of setting fire to the building from cooking inside, or it's probably just a case of I think we've got more creature comforts around us. You know, if you set up correctly, I think I'm probably warmer, holistically on an urban event. Yeah, I think I wouldn't really say there's probably much different. I probably just do less cooking, to be fair. And by cooking, I mean warming things up, because let's be
Warming
honest, how
things,
many
yeah.
of us actually cook stuff on a meal sim? It's not like we're
Well,
sitting there with like a little frying pan going.
You say that. I've been
I
to
know
a few
people do.
events.
I know
We've
people
been
do.
to. We have.
No, I know.
Red Side 1, we
Yeah,
had a
but-
full
No,
blown
yeah,
snake.
but we did that. Yeah, but we did that before the event started, or before I thought it had started. Anyway,
See, for me, mine would be. See, I'm the other way around. I find myself eating more regularly at urban events, because once you get into that room, you kind of you kind of switch yourself off a little bit from the outside. I think so. You sit down, you sit on your bed, you've got your bedside table, you just throw your kettle on or your jet boil. Whereas when you're out in the field at an urban event, it's just quick, shove it in a bag, heat it up, go out, do what you need to do, come back.
yeah,
I find woodland events, you're a lot more active,
yeah,
because someone could stumble across your harbour area in a woodland event, whereas everyone knows what building you're in.
yeah. I understand that. I do. I get that. I mean, I think probably I would maybe say that because you're more exposed in a rural event. So you know, if it rains, you are very much limited to whatever shelter system you've got set up. So I do appreciate that. You know, you don't have necessarily the luxury of just chilling out and relaxing, having a little stroll around the room, perhaps. That you obviously get an urban event. But I mean, food wise, yeah, I don't know. I mean, Lance just said we barbecued at Legion. Again, we had that before the event started. So I have done cooking at events and bits and pieces, but for the most part, not during an actual Milsim event. I've seen people do it. I mean, I think Rage was having a lovely barbecue at Red Tide 3. So I must profess being rather jealous of smelling that every time I went past. So yeah.
What didn't Op Irene? Weren't they cooking steaks and stuff while you were all in a bush?
Oh no, they just had a fire. We were cold in the bush, and we could just hear this fire.
I'm pretty sure I saw pictures of
there
them
may have
having
been
a
steaks.
a
I refuse to admit that there might have been
double
steaks,
burner going and everything.
Sit there cuddling Mark. So the last two things, I'm conscious of the time, so we'll probably not worry too much about tactics, because whilst tactics obviously do vary, I think for the most part you're still going to be using things like flanking maneuvers. You know, the only real difference probably urban is that there'll be more door kicking and dealing with buildings from that perspective. But fob setups is something I wanted to kind of briefly touch on as well. Andy, I'll throw it to you. What would be your perceived differences between a rural and urban fob setup?
A whirl.
For some reason, I completely
then.
lost the ability to talk again. So,
went. For me, I would say setting up in the woodland is harder, because you've got to make it secure. And in a woodland, like secure and hidden would be the main one. So you'd end up using a lot more cam nets, larger tarps. You've got a lot of footfall going in and out. 90% of the time, you've got to keep it reasonably lit. But then also as well have it secured. So you've got to have like sentries. You've got to have forward observation centers. You've got to have and surrounded by your own tents and things, just so it makes it that little bit harder for an enemy force just to go steamrolling through and get straight to your HQ. Whereas in urban, you can pretty much shove it like up on the second floor, and make it really hard to get to, one way in and out. You can quite easily defend it. Whereas I think, and as long as it's out of view, people aren't really going to know if that's your HQ or if that's just where some people are sleeping. Whereas in a woodland, you can go, there's a big fucking tent there.
Yeah.
And there's like 20 people coming in and out of that every couple of minutes. Right? Pretty sure that's something important. So you do have to be a little bit more mindful on setting up in woodland.
It's a lot easier to maintain light discipline in a building. I mean, it depends on the building and how it's set up, but you know, for the most part, if you've got an ops room, for example, somewhere where you can close off the windows and things like that, then you can have lights going on in there, and you can see what's going on. Sort of utilize that capability. It's particularly helpful, I think, to have a map on the wall. That's probably the main difference I would probably argue between a rural and urban event, because having information up on the wall that you can share stuff, make notes, etc., is very, very helpful. Whereas I do miss that when we go to rural events. So while we might create like a map of the site or anything like that, maybe you do some sort of indicative stuff on the ground. For the most part, you are just effectively drawing in the dirt or on a bit of paper, which if it gets wet, it's a bit of a pain. So laminated stuff or anything like that, but you don't have like a big copy that you want to be standing there holding that out discussing.
But then again, if you've set up somewhere where you have got a tent that's well camouflaged and things like that, you can have that large map set up if needed.
Yeah.
So I think if it's done
it depends
properly,
on what you've got set up, but it's a heck of a lot easier in an urban environment, doesn't it?
Yeah, I say properly. It all depends on what you're able to achieve under the circumstances. So if you're in, say, medium to low woodland, where you can still see a good couple of meters in front of you, or even a couple of miles in front of you, you're gonna find it really hard to disguise a tent. Whereas if you're in really thick woodland, you could quite easily stick quite a large tent in or behind a bush, and then make the bush bigger. And then you can set up like a full command center if you wanted.
Yeah. I was thinking it'd be a heck of a lot easier not to see the Banshee if it wasn't bright green. Yeah, I mean, are there any other differences? I know we've whenever we kind of go to events where they're kind of urban areas or anything like that, we sort of try to create like little we have an ops room where we sit and discuss things and have little debriefs. So our TL on the event will go off and receive instructions from the main faction commander or anything like that. Will come back and be able to brief us because we've got the maps and stuff there. We normally
I think at Red Tide 3, you and me set up a little command center at the back, didn't we? So we had all our sleeping stuff in front of us. Then we had the command bit at the back.
Just info on the wall that we've just taped up on the wall for various bits and pieces. Nothing particularly OPSEC. That breached OPSEC. Because obviously these are buildings that the DEA or the task force elements could get into. So you do need to be careful whatever you're posting on the wall. But maps and things like that, you can put little circles on things and do that if you need to. If you've got a decent stag duty, you probably haven't got to worry too much about it anyway, but it's something to consider. We obviously had a little mess area as well, didn't we? We put all the water down. There was one corner of the building that was properly already sodden anyway, so we put like all the water containers down there. So for pouring out water, it didn't kind of affect anything else. I think there's not much difference
in regards what you can set up in urban and rural or woodland. It all depends if you've got the opportunity to set up some sort of housing or cover in a rural environment. Urban, you've already pretty much got it. You've got 4 walls and a ceiling 90% of the time. Yeah, I think if it's done properly, you can do it. There shouldn't be much difference in what you do.
There's one little bit of kit that we haven't discussed that I feel is very important for an urban event, and if you can get it as a team, it's very helpful. A broom, because like the first thing we did when we took over this sort of ground floor, and there must have been 8 of us in there, 8 or 10 of us.
Yeah, there was 10 of us in
our
that
wing of it.
Yeah, there was 10 in that section, and there was 6 in the other section.
Yeah. So the first thing we did when we got in there, swept it out. There's shit all over the floor. It was very clear as to kind of where some of the wetter patches were, so obviously people could see where not to place cots and stuff. If you've got a broom, makes it a heck of a lot easier just to give it a little bit of a clear out, and sort of, just kind of establish a bit of a, not clean area, but a little bit more sanitary.
Yeah. I pulled up a load of floorboards, didn't I? Because there was that ridge in the middle that everyone kept tripping over, and I was like, right, I'm not tripping over this at 2 o'clock in the morning. So I ripped up 90% of the floorboards and relayed it all, didn't I?
One story, Lance just said it's environmental and situation dependent, but there's one story I do want to share on behalf of Lance, which is be careful in urban environments, as well as rural, to be fair, because you obviously get trees which can be unstable. I think they're called widowmakers. But in particular in urban environments, be careful where you camp, because there are a lot of these urban sites can be quite dangerous, really. Whilst obviously the event organisers and everything like that can do whatever they can to make these things safe, there are potential situations that you can put yourself in where things could happen overnight that really, really mean that you're not going to be waking up in the morning. I know there was one particular event, and the life of me can't remember which one it is, and I'll probably let Lance talk about it when he's back from his holes. I believe they camped, or they kind of set up like a little harbour area under a wall or something like that, which it turned out the next day was proper teetering and at risk of coming over at any time. I'm not expecting everyone to be a structural engineer, obviously. You're not going to be looking at a building and go, ooh, that flange doesn't look right.
The supporting bar is not.
Yeah,
it's
it seems like if something looks a little bit unstable, or the floor feels a bit soft or something like that. Just bear that in mind. Don't take a risk with it. You're at an airsoft event. You're not actually in a real war.
You're pew-pewing with friends.
Exactly. Right, we've got some more questions come in. Marky Mark says, Andy, what hammock do you have?
Handy. I have had a handy hammock.
Hammock.
I have 2. I have the Snug Pack thermal one. I've forgotten what it's called. Don't really rate it that much. It's warm, but it's bulky. Never really used that one. And then I've got the DD. Actually, no, I've got 3. DD lightweight one. That's quite comfy, but literally only use that in the summer, and you still get cold. And then I have the DD hammock. I've forgotten which one it is. Elite, I think they call it. I'll have to have a little Google, and I'll put a picture of it up on Instagram for everyone. But yeah, it's got like a weird zip section on it that they say that you can either climb into, which I found very claustrophobic.
I think it's like a mosquito net, isn't it?
No, this one's literally a full cover.
Oh, okay.
And it like zips all the way along. But I found that the best thing is just throw your roll mat in there, and it just keeps it nice and square.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, right. Yeah.
But they do say that you can get in it if you wanted. But when I did that and you zip it up, you kind of think, oh, this is not nice. But yeah, it's a good bit of kit. Never had any problem with it. That's my main go-to one. My Snug Pack one I'd probably leave for if global warming goes the other direction and we start going in an ice age. It's so hot and it's so bulky. It's
Well, that's good if that's what you wanted.
Yeah, but then I bought the -40 sleeping bag, and put those two together, you are just sweating.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, they're good bits of kit. Yeah,
I have a Cova Cure. Yeah, I think it's just a one-person hammock, which has the mosquito net capability. I've never used it with the mosquito net. Could never be bothered to set it up.
no,
So I just
hate the
lay
mosquito
on
nets.
it in the hammock. But I mean, the only thing I would say, if you are a large gentleman, and speaking as a large gentleman, look at two-person hammocks. They don't really make too much of a difference in terms of size, but they give you obviously a substantially greater load carrying capacity. Now, I do exceed the weight limit on the one that I've used previously, and I've never had any issues with it. So I don't know. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not jumping around on the thing, so I'm not going to stress test it too much. But the two-person hammocks, it gives you a little bit of extra width if you need that.
Yeah.
But for the most part, probably fairly similar.
I quite like the two. Actually, that's the point. My zip-up one, my main go-to is a two-person one. But I quite like it as well, because when you get in it, once you've sunk yourself in, you've got sides. And if it starts getting a bit windy and you've got your under blanket, you can kind of shift yourself around a little bit.
You could get a zip installed and zip yourself into it, couldn't you?
Yeah, you could.
That's an interesting concept.
But yeah, but also as well,
if I'd want to be zipped into a hammock. That's probably the worst way to die.
But also as well, I find that the two-person ones. Now, if you do a lot of hammock sleeping, you know that you should never really sleep in line with the lines. You'd always sleep with basically your feet kind of overhanging your head, overhanging the other end, because it stops you from swinging as much. On the two-person ones, I find
you stop bending like that as well. Like it gives you the ability to lay flatter.
But I find that the two-person one actually gives you a better angle. It gives you more material to play with. And it stops all your shit from falling out. See, for me, I never do my sleeping bag up, because I know that I've got the under blanket and the mat. I know that I'm not going to get cold underneath. So I basically use my sleeping bag as basically like a duvet. So I just throw it over the top of me. With the two-person one, you've got higher sides. So if you do have a bit of a rough night and you're turning around, you're not waking up halfway through the night going, great, my sleeping bag's on the floor. Yeah. Which is horrid. Especially if it's been raining. You
do have to. That is something. If you're interested in hammock camping, we can probably spend a whole episode talking about that, because there's a whole load of things that you do need to be aware of. We've kind of discussed it in previous episodes. Things like rain drips. They're not called rain drips. Rain tails, something like that.
I just call them rain stops.
Yeah, I think they're called rain stops, something like that. But you need to bear in mind how you're setting your hammock up in terms of obviously preventing rain from running down the straps and then just going into the hammock.
Not good.
You obviously need to consider rain flies and stuff like that as well to shelter you, which you can use basher for. So that wouldn't be a problem. But yeah, we'll cover that one off in another day. We'll do.
Just make sure it's a square.
Yes.
Don't go for.
Or buy a big one, bigger basher. You'll be fine.
Or bigger basher,
The wall was at Darkwater, apparently. Darkwater Airsoft. So yeah, we'll let Lance cover that back off when he's back. But I know we have talked about it briefly, but yeah, just be careful where you camp. He also says he got one on Amazon for about £20. Comes with a lifetime warranty and 2-man. Bloody brilliant. And he's just posted a link in the community chat. So there you go.
Ooh.
Right. There were some last questions coming from Drew Metchen. So Drew says, personal admin drills need to be tops in green FOB. You can chill out a bit more in urban.
Yeah.
You can have everything in a green FOB that you can have in urban. I think that's the point. You can have everything. Ultimately, though, it depends. And I think this boils back down to
the personal admin side of it again,
the methodology by how you're getting there. Because if you're having to tab in, you're probably going to be reducing the amount of kit you got down. So, I mean, we've been to events where you've got like, big tents and stuff like that people have set up and the like. But it depends on how you're getting that kit there. Drew says it's down to your understanding of what a fob is and its role.
Mm-hmm.
And it's exactly that. It's going to be situation dependent. You don't need to set up. You don't need a mess tent, for example. You might have an event where that is a practical application. But you're not going to be sitting there doing that every time. So thanks, Drew. Good shout on that one.
Yeah, no, lovely.
Right, that's pretty much the end of the show. Andy, you wanted to mention
something. As everyone is probably aware, or if you're not aware, you are now. We are doing our 24-hour event, starting at event episode. It is going to be an event for us, I tell you. On the 2nd of December, through all the way to the 3rd of December. If anyone has any recommendations for non-normal ration packs, so nothing British or American, because I think most of us have tried most of those ration packs. But if you have any that you recommend or would like us to have a look at during the 24-hour event, because obviously during 24 hours we will need to eat. If you just drop either myself, Mike, or Lance a little message, we'll see if we can sort that out, because we're planning on doing some live cookings.
Well, live heating up.
Live heating up. But not in the kitchen. No. So some interesting ration packs. And if you know somewhere where to get interesting ration packs, please let us know. It's just one of the events that we are looking at doing during the event. I'm going to call it an event from now on.
You can't call it an event because people will try and book tickets and it'll be a nightmare.
Oh, it's an event for me anyway.
Drew said, have you done a 24-hour... I can't remember what the O stands for. Operational ration packs challenge. I don't know what the 24-hour operational ration pack challenge is. I assume just living off of that for 24 hours, maybe?
Didn't know there was a challenge.
No, let us know, Drew. Be interested. Always up for a challenge.
Drop us a message, mate. Yeah. I'm interested in that.
Yeah. In the meantime, if you want to get in touch with the show, you can do so on our email of nofochat@hotmail.com. Our Instagram is @November_Foxtrot_NoFo, and the website is novemberfoxtrot.co.uk. You can also talk to us on our own individual Instagrams of @9voltairsoft, @callsign_quartermaster, and @the_punished_1_. Apparently the challenge is eat everything in an hour. Fuck me.
Jesus.
I feel that's doable. I'd have to be very hungry before I started.
I'd definitely be on the old.
I feel that should be doable.
I don't know. Oh, you wouldn't be able to poo. Your body wouldn't know what to do. It'd be like, oh my God, there's so much fiber and so much fat.
Yeah. I think we might have to give this a go. Maybe not for the 24-hour episode.
Yeah.
If we do that at the start, we might not make it to the end.
Yeah, might do that.
Thanks, Drew. That's good. I wasn't
like
aware of
that.
that. That's something we'll have to do at some point.
That'll be on our list.
Next week. Yeah. Next week, we're going to be talking about...
nothing. We haven't got anything.
No, I think we were talking about... We were originally going to be having Krios Airsoft Photography on the chat. They have unfortunately had to postpone due to a clash of bookings. So I think we're going to be talking about kills without riffs. So we're going to be talking about pyro, claymores, remote detonators, trip mines, rubber knives, all of that lovely stuff. There's obviously a variety of ways that you can get a kill in airsoft, and we're going to be talking about all the opportunities that you can do without using your riff directly. So we'll see how that goes. So there we go. If you want to get in touch with the show, obviously all below. Next week we'll be here Wednesday at 8 p.m. I'm not sure if Lance is back next week or not. I know he's on holiday.
10 days.
Yeah, so
we might be back. 10 days. Yeah, we'll have to have a look.
Yeah. So in the meantime, have a good week. and we will see you all
You
next
too.
week.
Bye. And just remember.
Do you want to use the closing words?
Oh, don't forget to twist your knob off. Or pull your knob
we'll
off.
see you all next week. Say
no,
bye, Andy.
Bye, Andy. I wonder how many people actually listen to the end.